The Hinkley Center is a place and an idea and a process. It's physically some offices in a building, and there's 3 employees, but it's really the professors who do the research and the people at the DEP who need answers to questions and the graduate students working on the research projects and the people that attend the TAG meetings. The Hinkley Center is a statewide center that was created by the legislature in 1988 as part of the Solid Waste Act for Florida. It was the idea of a guy named Bill Hinkley, who passed away about a year and a half ago. And he was a real bright guy, real smart, and he wanted to get the universities involved in solving solid waste problems faced by the citizens of Florida. And over the years, the thing I'm most proud of is that we funded about 120 master's and doctorate degrees in environmental engineering, environmental science, and we've helped solve a lot of solid waste problems here in Florida. I'm executive director, and my job is to raise money and help coordinate research projects and dream big dreams and help implement them and see that we're doing things that matter to people that have responsibilities in the solid waste field here in Florida. Rhonda really runs the place. Rhonda sets up all of our websites, and she talks with all of our faculty members at the 9 universities around and talks to their graduate students and talks to our advisory board members and arranges our research selection process and helps develop a research agenda and communicates with gazillions of people on the web, and anything to do with any sort of research project for us or communications with our investigators or developing a report or anything, Rhonda does all kinds of stuff like that. Tim is our money guy, contract guy, and so anything to do with money or contracts or administrative matters, Tim handles that. Tim's also a chemist, and he goes to a lot of technical advisory group meetings, and it's really neat having another scientist here. I'm trained as an environmental scientist, and Tim Vinson is trained as an environmental chemist, and it's really fun to have him here because we can talk about chemical stuff.
We fund projects that people in the solid waste industry bring to us and say, I got a real problem here and help me with this. We sponsor projects at 9 universities around Florida, 7 public universities and 2 private universities. At Florida State University, Dr. Tariq Abashu, he's doing a project on how to make landfills not stink and how to convert methane that's coming out of landfills into carbon dioxide, because methane's a real bad greenhouse gas and carbon dioxide isn't so bad. Dr. Baron Tanzel at Florida International University is doing a project on how long you have to take care of landfills after you've filled them up. It's called post-closure care, but it's sort of like, how long do you have to take care of this thing after you've filled it up with garbage, and what's it cost, that kind of thing. Dr. Reinhardt's been doing projects on putting biosolids, sludges from wastewater treatment plants in landfills instead of land applying them. Dr. Miroff's working on a really cool new way of treating leachate. He's at Florida Atlantic University, and how to treat leachate using some new ultraviolet techniques with titanium oxides. At University of South Florida, there's a project that Dr. Audrey Levine has been doing on how to keep the leachate collection systems at landfills from clogging up. They've had a real clogging problem with landfills that take incinerator ash from waste energy plants. Dr. Townsend's doing a bunch of projects, one of them on leachate management, how to manage leachate in a way that doesn't cost a ton of money. He's done a lot of work on street sweepings, and he's shown that the things in street sweepings aren't really dangerous to landfills, and so counties don't have to spend a lot of money putting street sweepings into the landfills anymore if they don't want to. We've learned a lot about how to compact waste and how to operate landfills in a way that they don't stink, and learned something about keeping birds away from landfills. It's been a lot of pretty practical kind of stuff.
They've had a lot of problems with fires in landfills, especially up in the Panhandle. We're real interested in how to prevent fires at landfills.
We've learned a lot about managing gypsum, sheetrock, drywall, that don't put it in wet locations, because if you do, it'll generate a lot of hydrogen sulfide, and it'll be real stinky, and it can hurt people. We've learned a lot about how to keep lead at shooting ranges. When you shoot bullets at shooting ranges, when they hit the dirt berms, they create a lot of very small lead particles that can get into the surface water and groundwater and create contamination problems. And Dr. Ma's done a lot of research on how to keep the lead on site and not let it escape the site and create lead problems. Lead's a real dangerous kind of thing.
We've done a lot of research on construction and demolition debris and what's in it and how much is generated and where's it taken and what can be recycled and that kind of thing.
Dr. Chen at Florida State's doing a project on iron problems at landfills, iron seeps. Dr. Rue at the University of Florida, along with Dr. Townsend, is doing a project on arsenic and iron in groundwater at landfills and how to prevent that.
We've produced booklets, little booklets. I describe them as how to stay out of trouble with the environmental cops for 13 different industries. So if like you're a boat builder or a body shop person or a painter or a print shop or a photo shop or you use pesticides, you can read one of these little booklets and it's a little primer on how to manage your waste in a way that you don't contaminate the environment and you don't get in trouble with the environmental regulators. The federal rules on how to manage solid hazardous waste are pretty complicated and it takes highly trained person to read them, and so we wanted to make something that had like pretty simple language in it and a lot of photographs and make it easy for independent business people to stay out of trouble with the environmental regulator folks. The inspectors like them a lot. They like the books because they take them when they go on inspections and when they see a problem, they talk to the person. They say, look, you got to clean up your act, and here's a little book that tells you how to clean up your act, and I'm going to come back in a week and you better have fixed up things or I'm going to get tough with you.
Our biggest project has been this bioreactor landfill research project with Dr. Townsend at UF and Dr. Reinhardt at UCF. And they've been working on that for a number of years, and it's how to get garbage to degrade quickly to make a lot of gas. It's the concept of turning a landfill from just simply a permanent storage vessel into making it really into a place where you treat garbage, the way you treat wastewater at a wastewater treatment plant. And they're figuring out how to optimize the conditions so that the little critters that live in landfills eat a lot of paper and food waste and different things that little microorganisms can eat. Like they can't eat glass or aluminum or that kind of thing, but most of what goes into a landfill is a lot of paper, and so they're doing work on how to help the waste degrade very quickly so that they can get a lot of gas out real quickly and the landfill can settle quickly and that you won't have to take care of a landfill for as long as you would normally. You also save a ton of money on leachate management because you take the leachate from the bottom of the landfill and you put it back into the landfill through a whole bunch of injection points. And then you have a way to collect the gas. And in the old days, you just put garbage in a landfill and it was sort of a dry tomb. So you could, read a paper that was 30 years old or something. It's a really neat project. It's the largest solid waste research project probably underway in the world right now. We did this whole arsenic thing on treated wood that eventually the industry said, hey, we should quit using arsenic. And they quit using arsenic here in the United States and in Canada and in Europe largely because of the research done by Dr. Sola Gabriel at UM and Dr. Townsend at UF. The treating industries use about 35,000 metric tons of arsenic here in Florida to treat the wood that they've sold for decks and fences and boardwalks and things. The industry took CCA wood for residential purposes off the market. The CCA chemical is a pesticide, and you have to use a pesticide in accordance with its label. And so the people that hold the registration for the label changed the allowable uses and took residential uses off the label. So now the big stores like Lowe's and Home Depot don't sell CCA treated wood for decks and docks and boardwalks and fences and those kinds of things. It is still sold for power poles and telephone poles and industrial pilings and certain kinds of docks and saltwater environments and things. But the use of arsenic has dropped probably by about 2/3. Nobody had done much research on the environmental impacts of CCA-treated wood and how much was out there. And the research out of Florida by Sola, Gabriel, and Townsend really opened up the eyes of the regulators to the fact that they've imported hundreds of thousands of tons of arsenic into the United States from China and Chile and Mexico and places like that. That's like importing a poison into the country. That's not good. And when they took CCA out of the label, when they took it out of the ingredient they used for treating wood, that was effective throughout the United States. And the Canadians followed the U.S. rules, so it's also taken effect in Canada, and then the Europeans also followed that. So it's really had really widespread impact.
Hurricane Charlie. Oh, that was so devastating. You saw aluminum way out in the woods, and these sheets of aluminum for mobile homes and porches and things, and these people's homes were just ripped apart, and all kinds of trees, busted up, and homes busted up and torn down, and businesses, and a water tower that collapsed. And it was very interesting to watch how they managed the waste. The basic plan when you have a big disaster like that is to keep the garbage separate from the demolition debris and keep that separate from the vegetation, the trees that are torn down and things, and try to manage those without commingling those waste streams. And we're interested in learning how we can better manage that kind of waste to get people's lives back quickly to normal. The safety people, the 911 people, they just want the streets cleared. And then the homeowners want the stuff that fell down in their yard, they want it gone. If their house was damaged, they want that gone. And so it becomes a big logistics thing. And typically you have to do recycling from a big disaster like a hurricane. You have to have kind of a shortage of landfill space so that the economics kind of drive recycling. And that's happened in South Florida, in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. There's a lot of recycling of demolition debris taking place down there. It's not as common in other areas of the state because the tipping rates of these construction demolition debris landfills are pretty cheap. And so the cost of disposing it is cheaper than the cost of recycling it. You can go to our website, hinkleycenter.org, or a bunch of our other sites like litterinfo.org or bioreactor.org or ccaresearch.org, and we get 2 or 3 million visitors a year to our websites, and we're the most extensive solid waste research organization in the United States by a long shot.